If you've been searching is Zeffy free and you get more confusion after watching a few videos than before you started, I'm going to clear that up. There is a lot of noise out there about this platform and some of it is genuinely misleading. And I'm going to give you the straight answer from somebody who's helping small nonprofits choose fundraising tools and have been doing it for over 30 years. And for what it's worth, Zeffy has become my go-to recommendation. Full disclosure, this video is sponsored by Zeffy, but I'll explain why I agreed to that in just a minute. Here's what matters more than you might think. The platform you use to accept donations is not just a tool, it's the first thing a donor sees when they decide to give. If it looks unprofessional, if it's confusing, or most importantly, if fees are quietly eating into every gift, that is money that should be going to your mission. Over time, that adds up to thousands of dollars. And for small nonprofits running on a tight budget, that's not a small thing. 30 years in fundraising, hundreds of nonprofits, millions raised. So I'm a CFRE and I don't recommend platforms I don't believe in. So by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how Zeffy works, what your donors actually see, how the math stacks up against other platforms, and whether I recommend it. No fluff. Just a straight answer from someone who uses it with clients every week. Let's start with the most important question. Is Zeffy actually free for nonprofits? Yes, it is. Zeffy charges your organization nothing. No monthly fees, no platform fees, no transaction fees, no credit card processing fees. Every dollar a donor gives goes entirely to you. That is genuinely rare. Most platforms take somewhere between 2.9 to 5% of every donation plus a per transaction fee. That adds up fast. So I'll show you in math in just a few minutes because I think it's going to surprise you. Before I go further, I want to show you something because I know some of you are wondering about that tip prompt. You've heard about it, maybe you've seen it, and you want to know what your donors actually experience. So let me walk you through the full donation process on screen so there's no surprises. Here's what a donor sees when they give through Zeffy. The form is clean, simple, and professional. They choose their amount, they fill in their information, and then at checkout, there is an optional prompt asking if they'd like to add a small tip to support Zeffy. The suggested tip starts at 7 to 15% depending on the donation size. The donor can change it to whatever they want, including 0. It is clearly labeled as optional. The donor can adjust the amount or remove it entirely. Now the default is that it's a suggested percentage, but it's not hidden and it's not buried and it's not a trick. Your donor is in full control. I'm going to come back to this in a minute because I want to talk about what it means for your organization, but I want you to see it first so you can know exactly what we're working with. Now here's where a lot of people get confused and it's worth taking a minute to clear things up. The tip going to Zeffy is separate from your donation. If a donor gives $100 and adds a $5 tip, you receive $100. The tip is not coming out of your gift. Zeffy is not skimming off the top. The tip goes directly to Zeffy to fund the platform. That is how they stay free for you. And once you understand, the whole model makes a lot more sense. So let's do that math because this is where it gets interesting. Say your nonprofit raises $50,000 in a year on a standard platform charging 2.9% plus a 30-cent per transaction fee. You're going to lose roughly $1,500 or more in fees annually. At $100,000, you're looking at over $3,000 gone. And I know one organization that ran a single $170,000 campaign on a platform with standard fees. They lost $5,000. And some of those platforms let donors check a box to cover the processing fees. But if your donor doesn't check the box, your nonprofit absorbs the cost. On Zeffy, your nonprofit keeps 100% regardless of what the donor does with the tip. There's no scenario where you lose money. Now here's a mistake I see small nonprofits make when they switch to a new platform. So they change tools without telling their donors anything. They just quietly swap the link on their website and hope for the best. And then they're surprised when they get a confused email from someone asking why the donation page looks different. So if you switch to Zeffy, take 5 minutes to let your donors know. It doesn't have to be complicated. A short note in your next newsletter explaining that you've moved to a platform that lets you keep 100% of every gift is something donors appreciate hearing. It actually builds trust because it shows you're being thoughtful about where their money goes. Speaking of which, let me come back to that tip prompt now, because I think this is the part that deserves the most attention. The question isn't just whether donors can set the tip to 0, because they can. The most important question is, what happens when donors understand why the tip exists? So some people will tell you that a transparent mandatory fee is more ethical than an optional tip. But think about which model actually costs your nonprofit more. A mandatory fee takes money from your mission on every single transaction. An optional tip lets your donors choose, and your nonprofit keeps everything either way. That's not less transparent, that's more transparent. Now, I've been seeing this play out with real organizations, and the results are consistently positive. One executive director, before switching to Zeffy, actually went and surveyed her board, her major donors, and her smaller donors about it. Every single one came back and said it was not a problem. Her take was that it's pretty clear on the platform what's happening, and donors are used to this kind of optional add-on by now anyway. Another nonprofit leader put it even more simply. She said some donors can't afford anything extra, and that's completely fine. Others are genuinely happy to chip in a few dollars because they know it's helping the nonprofit keep using a free platform. When donors understand that the tip is what keeps Zeffy free for nonprofits like yours, most of them see it as a way to give twice. Once to your mission and once to the infrastructure that supports it. That framing changes everything. When someone comes to me using PayPal, Venmo, or no donation page at all, the first thing I do is set them up on Zeffy. Now, I've watched what happens when small nonprofits with a messy payment setup finally have a clean, professional donation page. It changes how donors perceive them. If you're at this stage where you want structure around your entire fundraising approach, not just the tools, that's exactly what I do in my Fundraising Fast Track program, where we build your donor list, your case for funding, your campaigns, and so much more. And if you follow the steps and don't raise at least what you invest, I refund your money. There's a link in the description if you want to take a look. So as we wrap up, here's my honest verdict on Zeffy after 30 years in the sector. It is honestly the platform I recommend to small nonprofits. And the fee savings are real, the donor experience is clean and professional, and the tip model is transparent and fair. And if you're currently using a platform that charges transaction fees, I encourage you to run the math for your own organization using the comparison I showed. The numbers usually make the decision pretty easy. And if you've heard that Zeffy is just a basic donation processor that won't grow with you, that's wrong. Now includes a full CRM with up to 1 million contacts, email tools with 600,000 emails a month, even event ticketing, membership forms, raffle, auction tools, and a free grant finder, all in one platform, all free. So if you're ready to get Zeffy set up, the next video walks you through the whole thing in 10 minutes, start to finish, and it's completely free. So go watch that one, and I'll see you there.